Can't keep asking the American taxpayer to dig deeper and deeper into their pocket while the European taxpayer isn't being asked to do the same thing. And what I want is every time Chairman Xi gets out of bed and looks across the Taiwan Strait, he says, they're still too tough, we're not ready. The fact that we have what's going on in Ukraine, Putin on the march, we have as close as we are going to get to World War II right now going on Europe's doorstep, and you only have 11 of 31 NATO nations meeting their bare minimum 2% of GDP that they're spending on defense. You have your frontline Eastern European countries going above and beyond. But our the big economies of our allies like Germany, Italy, France are falling way behind. And when I take a step back to answer your question, I look at the fact that this year is the first year ever in American history that the interest on our debt will eclipse our entire defense budget. We literally can't afford to subsidize European defense anymore. We had to step in and stop Putin. The Ukrainians are doing the fighting and dying. They asked us for the beans and bullets. That's fine. But now going forward, we can't keep asking the American taxpayer to dig deeper and deeper into their pocket while the European taxpayer isn't being asked to do the same thing.
One of the challenges that I look at when I think about the fight in Ukraine, I think about the Russians, and also will say I think about the Chinese like this too, but we haven't seen them kind of in a fight yet.
Right.
Is we have an enemy who's willing to lose everybody.
That's right.
And to throw as much as it takes out there.
As long as it takes.
And they don't care about life like we do.
Yeah.
How do we combat that?
Well, I think that isn't fought necessarily militarily, and that's part of my frustration with the Biden administration strategy in Ukraine. Multiple analysts and the intelligence community have confirmed to me, you drive the price of oil below $55 a barrel, not only does Putin's war machine dry up, his economy is now in survival mode. We should be flooding the world with cleaner, cheaper American oil and gas. Not only do you put Putin's war machine on the fritz, you also take care of Iran too, which is selling 90% of illicit oil to China, of all things. So I think you need a much broader strategic approach, particularly when it comes to energy, than just throwing more and more weapons into what has now turned out to be a stalemate. So again, we need to enforce the sanctions, drive down the price of oil, European burden sharing. They need to step up, particularly the big economies. This is a much broader strategic approach. And then to answer your other question of the next fight, I don't know that we're ready. I'm the chairman of Readiness on the Armed Services Committee. When you have 29% of Joint Strike Fighters full mission capable, 40% of our submarines, our last big advantage in the Pacific, can't get out of the yards. The Marines are about to go 2 years without having any big amphibs. And we have a recruiting crisis going on where the Army's having to cut whole units. So when I say we need to put everything we've got into facing the threat that China is, and Europe has to step up and share their burden, I really mean it. And then you look in contrast to Japan as a critical ally. They are doubling their defense budget. They are truly investing in their own defense. And I think that's a model. Again, when you look at our allies and what it's going to take, China's going to be a tough adversary. But us, Australia, Japan, India, and our dominance with global energy, I think we can do it.
Is it a money issue or is it a willingness issue? Because when we're here, we talk about World War II, whole of society approach.
Right.
Okay, all the vehicles that we see driving around here were made by Dodge. They were made by their Jeeps, right? Chrysler.
Yeah.
Ford, right? These companies in the American industry stopped making commercial goods and began mobilizing for the war effort. For years, they did that.
Yep.
A whole of society approach is something we know and have proven works.
I think it's a great question, but my answer is yes, it's money, and yes, it's all a whole of society approach. And the Chinese Communist Party know that. That's why they've deliberately cornered the market on certain types of supply chains, on pharmaceuticals that they can turn off. They control global shipbuilding now, about 50% of the global market. They're buying up ports left and right. So if they can really turn the screws to the American consumer, I mean, we saw how the country reacted when we just had a baby formula shortage. What if you could no longer buy antibiotics? What if the shelves were empty? What if they unleash cyber attacks like Volt Typhoon, which was no longer designed to steal data, but to actually destroy pipelines, ports, grids? This is going to be an all-of-society conflict if it comes to it. We have to deter it. And what I want is every time Chairman Xi gets out of bed and looks across the Taiwan Strait, he says, they're still too tough. We're not ready.
How much do you think they look at our actions in other places of the world? And primarily, I'd say actions in other places of the world, but also taking it back to Congress, indecision because of tensions between the two parties in Congress.
Yeah, look, I mean, democracy's messy. Democracy can be difficult. Winston Churchill said, American democracy is the worst system of government in the world, except all the others, right? We tend to get to the right answer after exhausting all the wrong ones. But at the end of the day, I'll take our free market, individual liberties, right, our openness of our society and our form of government over his all day long. But back to the Jedburghs and bringing it back home, I want Xi to wake up worried about a Uyghur uprising. I want Xi waking up worried about the Tibetans. We need to start rattling his cage a bit more internally. We need to be supporting, in the Cold War, Soviet dissidents or Russian dissidents were household names across the United States. I mean, you look at the movements in Eastern Europe that we supported through Voice of America, through communication means, overt and covert. I think those are the things that we need to be thinking about asymmetrically. Not to mention the great work that our special operators are doing in the neighboring countries, in Mongolia, in India, Southeast Asia, to train, advise, and assist our allies. The more the Chinese Communist Party are looking over their shoulder, the less they're looking across the Pacific. And special operations will have a huge, huge role going forward.
Let's talk about special operations.
All right.
Hey, you're a Green Beret. I'm a Green Beret. We talk a lot about Green Beret. Beret Foundation is the reason why we're here.
Yeah, man.
Thing together. There's been a push from big Army DOD to reduce soft forces.
I've been fighting it. Fighting it all day long. And the Secretary of the Army keeps telling me, no, these are the intel folks and the logistics folks and the support. These aren't actual Green Beret trigger pullers. And I just think it represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what those special operations trigger pullers need. We need embedded intelligence. We need embedded targeters. We need logisticians that understand the unique needs of an isolated ODA on the other side of the world in a combat zone or out of a combat zone. And so now to have to reach over to Big Army to get those assets and compete for those assets, I think is a tremendous mistake, and I'm fighting it every turn in the last defense bill and this next one.
Well, I think about soft truth number 5. That it takes the whole team.
That's right.
It's not just about the special operator.
And you can't mass produce. You can't mass produce the support network as well. Look, I'll take 3 civil affairs, a half dozen PSYOP soldiers, and you put them on some of these Pacific islands, and you are making game-changing gains against the soft power that the Chinese Communist Party is implementing. Look, those support men and women for the special operations community keep us out of wars. Those are the left of bang. Those are the ones who establish deterrence and soft power that we need going forward. So again, that is the absolute. We shouldn't be cutting it all. We need to fix this recruiting crisis, but to the extent we are, it shouldn't be them.